Good afternoon, friends, to whichever part of the globe you belong to. I hope you are having a great 2018 and also in terms of learning, evolving, understanding and understanding subjects better and hoping to aspire and grow well in 2018. So welcome to this last lecture and module on entrepreneurship management. So what we normally do, we'll take a quick recap of whatever we've done so far. We will give we'll give a broad outline of what's stored in us today. And third, we will detail one by one. Now friends, you might be wondering why in every module we take a recap of the previous, all the lectures. Friends, very important part of learning. And any learning for that matter, if you are learning and starting a new subject module, it is a very good strategy to recap whatever we have done so far. Learning strategy, it helps a lot. They say repetition is the mother of all skills, and hence repeating a couple of times, even the module title underlay, it gives a broad understanding where we are. That's what we do in our part 1. And then we start off the session by giving an overview and then detail it out. And that's the reason why we do it. So let's take a quick recap what we have done so far. In our first module, we started this topic on entrepreneurship management by understanding we define what does an entrepreneur is. We have defined what is an enterprise. We have spoken about prime characteristics and attributes what an entrepreneur need to have, and in that we spoke about risk-taking ability, we spoke about innovation, creativity, we spoke about being goal-oriented, perseverance, stuff like this. Second module, we got and delved into the topic of understanding the business dynamics and markets. So we also look into how to analyze business opportunities based on internal conditions of the organization. That includes its products, services, HR personnel, the supply chain management, the marketing intermediaries, and also the external environment. And when we spoke about external environment, we spoke about the demographic conditions, the political conditions, economic conditions, social cultural conditions as well. And identify how business opportunity need to be identified in terms of doing a SWOT, identifying what are the S&W, that means strength and weakness that the enterprise has, to what's available outside as opportunities. That's what we did in the second module. Third module, we went forward and understood risk-taking. We took one of the attributes of an entrepreneurship required, and that was about taking risk. So we spoke in that module about risk-taking ability, and also we coupled up with one more topic, and that was about women entrepreneurship. We spoke about how the percentage of women going on to become an entrepreneur has risen in the last couple of decades worldwide, and Indian conditions as well, where lots of government initiatives were taken so that the women were encouraged and given a lot of impetus, thrust and incentives to become entrepreneurs. So that's what we did in the third module. We moved forward and got into the topic of venture capital. So one of the things that becomes very dead important for an entrepreneur is to raise capital. That means that if an entrepreneur wants to raise a capital, what are the possible sources? So we spoke about invariably a lot of time people used to gain capital either by their savings, their family savings, or it could be investors. We spoke about angel investors, we spoke about venture capitalists, we spoke about the types of investment, be it debt or equity, and we also spoke about IPO in that module. That's about initial public offerings. That's where when a startup organization becomes already a mid-sized organization. In the next module, we also spoke about creativity and innovation, and that's something which is a mainstay when it comes to entrepreneur. It's about how an entrepreneur needs to be innovative, and we expanded the radar of creativity and innovation, not restricting ourselves by saying that innovation is just restricted to a product or service, but expanding the horizons by saying innovation could be in terms of either product or service. It could be innovation in terms of how do you reach out to your customer well. It could be innovation in marketing. We spoke about innovation in supply chains, where just-in-time approaches, quality management service systems were part of the supply chain, or it could be inventory management system as well. So we spoke about innovation as well. And then we also moved forward, and in the last module we spoke about we spoke about the entire process about how an entrepreneur starts off. So we spoke about first identifying opportunities, taking a decision of which kind of business is into it. We spoke about writing a project report, the arrangement in terms of land, shed, also other amenities like power, water, and the kind of approvals that were required from either the state government bodies or the central government bodies, and also maybe special applications required based on certain agencies as well. And we further delved into the matter about how this entire process goes in. Today we would be the last module on entrepreneurship management. We'll be touching on three aspects. One, yesterday the last module we spoke about the project writing report, how a business proposal needs to be done. We will further elaborate that by the project formulation and feasibility study. That's what the first part of the module would be. The second, we will be looking into EDP, or entrepreneurship development programs. And the third would be in terms of what kind of government support exists as bodies to support these entrepreneurs, is what we would be looking for. Now, friends, let me tell you in this module, there would be lots of stuff which would be database. Now, when we speak about institutional support, so we'll speak some time on a lot of data, right from the kind of institutions that are available, what they do, which cities are available. So they are slightly data-based. So normally when data is provided in any kind of learning form, generally people get bored of very soon. But the point to be understood, these data are very critical and important from this module perspective, one, and two, also from understanding the dynamics from an entrepreneur's perspective, what all things exist, is what is. So even if you get slightly off track, sometimes it's good to come back, even the database thing. So this is what three aspects that we will covering in this module. So as we start, again one request, please take up a pen and a book and write down important points that you feel is important, relevant. You can also drop and share an experience on email as well through ISBM, and we would also appreciate the fact that my also request would be that if you're listening to this live lecture, that's great, but if you're listening to a recorded version of the lecture, a good strategy also is to listen to 15 minutes, half an hour, take a 5-minute pause, then come back again. And don't listen any lectures only once. See that couple of times. And as I mentioned earlier as well, that repetition is power. That gives immense value. And with multiple listenings, multiple reading also, new insights come up as learnings. So we'll start with the project formulation feasibility study. So yes, in the last module, we spoke about how project or decision need to be made, how a business proposal need to be done. When you speak of we will understand what is first project formulation. Now, project formulation is a process whereby the entrepreneur makes an objective and assessment of various aspects of an investment proposition of a project idea or determining its total impact and also its liability. Let's take an example. So when Ola was supposed to start off its business in India, and considering Ola as a business project, now the entrepreneurs on board need to analyze what the market is, what kind of funds would be required, what kind of technological things would be required. So when we say that a business formulation, a project formulation is assessing and analyzing the approaches in this case is important. Aims. Now, what is the aim of a project formulation? The aim of project formulation is to achieve the project objective with minimum expenditure and adequate resource. Now, very important keywords over here are minimum expenditure. Now, understand, especially for a startup kind of enterprise, it is not a great sign that you invest too much of money before you start. So minimum expenditure is always a worthwhile decision. For the simple reason, if for somehow or for some external conditions doesn't suit the business or the enterprise, your losses are minimized and you can mitigate that risk very effectively. And adequate resource. That means when we say adequate resource, we are saying that we are optimizing our resource well. Now let's take an example of the Ola itself. Now, let me give some very statistically significant facts. Now, Uber, on which the model Ola copied the Uber model, which is a US-based company. Now, if you see, Uber was available in European and US market at least 10 years, some 7 to 8 years back. And it came to India after 7-8 years, which happened in 2011, 12, around that period is what Ola was launched to start off. Now, why? The question becomes why it took almost 6-7 years for an Ola to copy the business model, which was a successful running model across other countries. Now, and that answer comes from the business analysis, and the answer becomes very obvious now for a model of a digital network, because Ola runs on the model of digital networks. It is very important to look into the communication that existed. For example, we all know that for a Ola or a Uber application, we need a data network. Imagine, and data networks in India, especially for if you want an app of an Uber and Ola to work effectively, it needs to have a data network of at least 3G or 4G. Now, from the period of 2010 to almost 12, 13, 14, majority of customers or population of India were using the 2G services. Now, 2G data pack doesn't support the application of an Ola well. Imagine if Ola would have launched with a 2G kind of format. You know what kind of havoc it might have created. So, within the business process itself, analyzing the technological upgradation was required, or technological need was there, where the customers all were using the 3G or the 4G database network. So hence, and that comes from the project formulation about understanding the technical things required as well. And hence, any project formulation requires that it analyzes these aspects very well. Objective. What are the objectives? Objectives are, it states in broad terms the achievement expected of the project. So when we formulate a project, first, what is it that the project is aiming to achieve in a broader sense? As an operational objective, it is specifically mentions the results expected from the implementation of the project. So on one hand side, it marks up as, okay, this is what the objective is. On the other hand, it looks into what kind of application it's going to reach in terms of the results to be expected in a year, in 5 years time. And this is important because based on this project formulated project itself, the entrepreneur will receive capital either for as a land, of machinery, or for other things as well. So there are 7 stages of project formulation, and those 7 stages are: 1. Feasibility study. Now, important to understand that feasibility analysis important, because a lot of time an entrepreneur might be a visionary, a go-getter kind of mindset. So he might be thinking very big in terms of either innovative product, an idea, thought, a business process, whatever. But the point also to be remained and seen and looked forward to is this thought or idea feasible? That is it workable? So feasibility analysis, the techno-economic analysis. So in terms of technological upgradation, so the example that we spoke about in terms of Ola. So had an Ola been launched in early 2010-11, the results would not be so great because it needs a technological application to access this the app. So hence it requires a techno-economic analysis, and plus need to understand this during the early period of 2010-11, even if 3G and 4G networks are available in few distinct metro towns, they were damn expensive. And Ola model runs on the model of economies of scale. That means it has to run through networks. Through the more the business they do, the more value to money they can give to the end customer. So had it been that they would have given the same process with a 2G application, it would have been very difficult for Ola to survive that. Project design and network analysis. So we call this from business perspective the mind mapping. Just like we spoke about when a building is constructed, there's an outlay being done or a blueprint being prepared. So the project design and network analysis is the actual design in terms of how in terms of when the project would start, when it would start under operational, what kind of things would come in, and the networks associated with it. Input analysis. So input analysis is how much of input would give how much of results. So in terms of gaining loans, it becomes very important. Financial analysis. So financial analysis in terms of what would be the ROI. Now for example, when we speak of an angel investor or even a venture capitalist for that matter, when we are speaking about venture capitalists, we spoke that for a startup kind of organization who has spent 1-2 years in the business, they're expecting 50% returns in the next couple of years. So if that is what the ROI that a venture capital is expecting, an entrepreneur needs to give him confidence, one, and show them a statistical mind map feasibility study. Okay, this is, if you invest in us, this is what the ROI would be, the return on investment would be. The social cost benefit analysis. So it's also about the value analysis done as well. Value analysis of the product or service that is being offered, and what kind of value that this product is going to give to the marketplace vis-a-vis competition, vis-a-vis the price being invested, vis-a-vis the time and the money that the customer is going to share. The project appraisal or the pre-investment analysis as well. So it also in terms of time and again the project needs to be appraised. Now appraised means checked, followed up, mind mapped, update it. Now, the beauty of any project management is it's not just designing a project. Now, friends, let me tell you that people who are into full-time project management, they know the role of business planning. They actually know how business needs to be first planned, but also implemented and executed to the core becomes important. So we'll speak on one by one. So when we speak of feasibility analysis, the project idea, what do? The project idea is examined whether to go for detailed investment proposal or not. So one of the primary objectively of the feasibility study is to take a decision, can we go forward with it or not. So when we spoke of Ola, when they might have done a feasibility study into 2010-11, they might have said, no, this is not the time to start and invest because the market is not yet ready because of technological things, social equation as well, and even value for money. It is done in the context of internal and external constraints. So feasibility is done not only in terms of the external environment. In Ola case, the external environment is the technology. It's also the internal environment. It's also about, are we prepared? Is an entrepreneur prepared to grow? Now understand, lot of time market gives an opportunity for an entrepreneur to grow, right? Now it is very important for an entrepreneur to understand, is he or his system prepared for growth? What does it mean? It means that, does he have infrastructure for the growth? Does he have the personnel, the human resource to grow along? Does he have networks to diversify, to channelize this growth? I'll give an example. I'll give a similar analogy. Let's take an example of a tree. Now, if a tree grows, right? If a tree, we have seen that tree normally when they start off as small herbs and shrubs, they're very small in size. But as a tree grows, it grows uniformly. That means the stem grows in length, in thickness. Branches are more laid out, more leaves, because more leaves, they want more food so that the growth could be sustained. Imagine if a growth happens without sustainable resource. Could that be a challenge? Yes. And resource challenge could be money, land, power, electricity, human resource, any of them. So feasibility study checks that. A market analysis is done, and market analysis also means market analysis of today, present time scenario, and also of scenarios that is going to come in the next couple of years. Now, which we call this future forecasting. Now, forecasting is so very important, not only forecasting of couple of months ahead, but couple of years ahead. Simple reason, external environment in terms of technological upgradation has been phenomenally growing. We spoke that every 10 years, 5-10 years, the technology knowledge is doubling. That means that whatever technology the entrepreneur is currently using, would it be still there after 5-10 years? You never know. So you might be building an investment story or growth story for the entrepreneur, but if the market is not going to support, then the efforts, resource might be futile, and there's a cost invested about it as well. If the project idea is feasible, now if all these things are accomplished, met with, then we go for the second step, or else abandon the idea. That means once the feasibility study is okayed with, now this okaying is important from an entrepreneur perspective. If this is okay, we go into the techno-economic analysis, wherein the estimation of a project, demand potential, and choice of the optimal technology are made. So we look into what kind of technology the business function is going to use now or in the future. It has to be also looked into from the perspective of ROI. Is it going to pay returns? Market analysis is inbuilt in this step. It's part of that. This stage gives the project a unique individuality and sets the stage for detailed design development. So once this techno-analysis thing is done, which for a lot of organization is a technical background knowledge, if this is done, this is the major tick that is required for a business feasibility study. The project design and network analysis. It means it is the heart of the project. This is where it's called the Bible, the Gita, whatever you call it. It's the heart of the project. It defines individual activities and the interrelationship with each other. So a business design is a very much detailed outlay of things, how it rolls on. It's a very detailed approach. The sequence of events of project is then presented, and in this design, it's actually a flow chart. Okay, step number 1 would be this. It will be lead to step number 2 and 3. So it's a kind of a real flow chart that exists. Detailed work plan of the project is prepared with time allocated for each activity and presented in the network in the evening. It is important to understand these dynamics very well. The project design and network analysis. Input analysis. So when we speak of input analysis, it accesses the input required during the construction and operation of a project. So what all inputs would be required while we construct the design and also while it gets into operation. Quantitative and qualitative assessments are done. Determine project feasibility from the point of view of resource requirement, and it helps the financial and cost benefit analysis. So at every juncture, so in a network design, there are set milestones for each step. What would be the ROI? Say for example, after 6 months, what is the sales they are looking forward to as income and profits? What would be the ROI? At what point of time or the break-even would be reached by the organization? The financial analysis. Now, financial analysis estimates project cost, operating cost, and fund requirements as well. It aids the decision maker by comparing various project proposals, and it's necessary to exercise due care and foresight in financial forecast. We know that for any business project, the economic engine is of very prime importance. So financial accounting, forecasting, matching resource at appropriate points is very much critical. Lot of business ventures get closed down because of the primary reason that they can't really mobilize funds appropriately. Now imagine an organization is growing big. Now let's take a classic example of Orcom, of Anil Ambani Group of Reliance. Now Orcom, we know, is shut down because of the undue debt which was there, which they couldn't repay back in time. Now that's also a case where you are expecting some profits, and that's the reason you have taken a loan from financial institutions. And if the profit doesn't come up, you can't really pay your liabilities or dues. And hence, in some scenarios, the organization or enterprise needs to shut down, or it's taken over by some other organization. In this case, Orcom now we know is taken by Adani Group of companies. So very important when it comes to financial analysis about estimating the right thing, and that's the reason the role of business analysts have gone up significantly up. Social cost benefit analysis. It means it's the overall worth of the project is the main consideration. So as financial accounting, the design network are the detailed one. Socio-economic is a broader picture. It's an overview. It looks into from a global perspective. There are three categories about it. It's primary from the viewpoint of implementing body, how implementation could be done. Secondary, apart from the project implementing body, it spills over and multiply effect. We know that whenever a, a business is run, the profits sometimes tend to grow exponentially, and then the growth doesn't happen by doubling or tripling. It actually happens exponentially multiple times over, and so does the losses as well. So either a profit or a loss happens exponentially positively or negatively. Tertiary is non-quantifiable spillover. Spillover, when we say, is the effect that doesn't have a normal formula. Now effects normally are seen doubling, tripling, but spillovers are sometimes exponential in nature. So when we say of cost benefit analysis, for example, word of mouth. Let's take a simple example of word of mouth marketing or word of mouth sales. Now I'll give an example. Pulse candy. Now I don't know whether you have tasted this or not. Pulse candy is a classic example where you will never find an advertisement for Pulse. In fact, it has become 100 crore brands within 2 years with zero marketing. And one of the prime reasons that are attributed, there were two primary reasons. One is the technological innovation. It's innovation of two different tastes, of an hajmola and a kacha keri. So one is the combination, that's a technological innovation, and the second was word of mouth. And Pulse Candy comes from a DS group of companies who are already into eateries like Pan Parag, Rajnigandha. So the channel or supply chain was through the pan shops. So there was no really marketing by word of mouth. The word of mouth is a spillover. That means you never know how much times it multiplies within a very short period of time. It takes time initially, but once it makes a song, it really multiplies many times over. And when we are saying mouth publicity is not just the positive ones, sometimes even bad mouthing could happen, where the negative effects of the product is highlighted predominantly in social circles. For example, when Cadbury got a bad name a couple of years back because of a defect of the product itself. So the cost benefit ratio need to be analyzed. So in terms of what is the benefit, if this is what I am investing, what is the tangible, intangible returns that an entrepreneur is deriving from it is important. Pre-investment analysis or project appraisal. So it's also important to take a pre-investment. That means a project proposal gets a final shape at this stage. All results obtained in the above steps are consolidated and arrive at various conclusions. So all kind of results that gets consolidated, it's compiled, collated as well. Project sponsoring body, implementing body, and external consulting agencies decide whether to accept the project or not. So a lot of time before, for example, financial institutions just don't give loan. Even from their internal analysis, a lot of time they hire external agencies to benchmark and evaluate the project. So they, based on their evaluation as well, because understand from a banker's perspective or from a financial institution perspective or from an FDI perspective, it is very important. If they're investing money, that's a risk. So they want to mitigate that risk, they want to minimize the risk, they want to optimize the risk by finding out, is the project worth it? So lots of business benchmarks are set, and there are a lot of agencies who check the value analysis as well. Investment decision then is taken by the financial institution, bank, angel investor, financial investors, venture capitalists, whether to invest in this project of the entrepreneur. And for this entrepreneur, it is very important to make all this analysis. Appraisal. Now, project appraisal is a process of accessing and questioning proposals before resources are committed. So it's important for entrepreneur is about accessing and looking into how the business is going to run. So project appraisal, first when it is done, after preparation and design. So once the preparation and design is done, the first appraisal is taken then. What is project appraisal? It provides a comprehensive and systematic review of all aspects of the project. So project appraisal gives a detailed picture of each aspect of the project. Why there is a need for project appraisal? Simple, to development and successful completion of project. One of the reasons in management it is said that you can only manage those things that you can measure. Whatever you can't measure, you can't manage. And for measurements, they say that if you want to really master in any specific skill sets, area, domain, zones, they say being specific is terrific and mastery lies in details. That means the more detailed picture we have lots of tangibles that will come up, which will come as benchmarks, will come as influencing parameters, will come out as areas that an entrepreneur can drive home. So project appraisal is a detailed picture and shows measurable tools where things could be modified, managed, tweaked, twisted. Practical. Appraise your identified projects in terms of the following. So it could be technical analysis, it could be economic analysis, financial analysis, environmental, social, gender analysis, ecological analysis, and political analysis. So one of the things that part of analysis is also gender analysis. Now, it is important, suppose the industry that the entrepreneur is working in is apparel, right? And the apparel is of a female cloth lining. It is very important for an entrepreneur to understand, does he have female personnel in the designer team? Because if they don't have female people in the designer team, they can't really understand the taste and sense about it. So it's having the understanding of gender diversification as well, based on the context. So all of this important when it comes to the formulation feasibility study. So the project appraisal will include social, gender, environment, political, economic, ecological, institutional, financial, and technical. Now ecological is also important. When we say ecological, that if I am running a project, very important to check whether this project is not harming my environment. That means if I am into manufacturing, any manufacturing unit, if I need to be very sensitive and clear that the waste or the disposable things that are produced as a byproduct of manufacturing my main element, I should ensure that they are dumped well, they doesn't cross the permissible limit of toxicity of the environment clause. So whatever the state laws define it as toxicity level for possibly a chemical, a drug, a machinery tool, whatever the case, the benchmarks from those organizations need to be cleared well. So need to also check whether it's economical, ecological in nature. The technical appraisal. Now technical appraisal is will the project work? Good question to ask. Availability of the required quality and quantity of raw material, very important. Availability of utilities like power and water, etc. follows anti-pollution laws that what we spoke about. Let's give an example at this point of time. Uh, Very recent news, TCS, which normally annually hires close to 30-40,000 software engineers every year, has slowed down the recruitment process of hiring uh, BE or engineering graduates, and they have reduced that to 20%. That means of the 30-40,000 engineers that they are hiring, now they have reduced it to 10,000 or less than 10,000. Reason? Because they have analyzed that the manpower they would be requiring would be much less. They would not be requiring so much of manpower. And lot of jobs that TCS has when it comes to IT could be automated. So if something that could be automated, it would be automated. There's no required for engineers to recruit. But having said that, there would be some areas, some zones within the job function which would require technical expertise, which they should have expertise as niche areas, and only those 8-10,000 engineers from either A plus or A standing universities they would be hired. So the point is, when we speak of technical appraisal, important part for an organization to look from this perspective. Financial appraisal. Now, can the project be financed properly? Not only to start, but also to be operational, functional, and over a period of 5 and 10 years further as well. Will there be sufficient funds to cover the expenditure requirement during the life of project? So, entire lifespan of the project, would there be sufficient fund rolling on? Means of financing. So who would be the financiers? What would be the terms and conditions? Are they would be debt funds or equity funds, or possibly an FDI, or is there a need to float an IPO? Are good questions to ask when it comes to financial appraisal. Social aspects. Now, social aspects when it comes to the feasibility report includes things like what will be the effect of project on different groups, be it at an individual level, household level, or a community level, and how will the project impact women and men. So it's about looking into from the demographic environment at an individual level, group level as well. Environmental appraisal mean that will the project have any adverse effect on the environment? Have remedial measures been included in the project design? So are there any safety norms being built in? Now, let's take an example of a chemical company called from Moffat-Lal Group called Navin Fluorine. Now they are into a business of manufacturing fluorinated products. Now fluorinated products are gases, fluorine gases, which is required primarily in the industry of refrigeration, AC, and few specific niche segments. Now we know fluorine as a chemical, if it combines with some chemicals, they can produce hazardous compounds. So for companies like Navin Fluorine who are dealing with some sensitive products, it is very important for the organization to be very much aware of environmental hazards. Plan A. Plan B is also to have a safety net in terms of, do I have a backup if some hazardous things happen? Do I have a backup in terms of safety drills, in terms of a first aid mechanism, in terms of the reach and approach by the medical team, so on and so forth? Because let me tell you, otherwise how we can forget the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1980s, a casualty that happened, and the effects are still seen because the gas methane can be very critical, not only present but for years together. People faced a lot of consequences, are still facing now as well. And we are speaking of gas leak of Bhopal from 1980, and we are sitting in 2018. So that's good 40 years. Ecological and political appraisal. So it could be an environmental damage, or will the project be compatible with the government policy at both central, regional or local level. So whatever policy is being formulated, is it in compliance with the government norms, local authorities as well. Feasibility study. So when we speak of feasibility study, any successful project, company, factory, individual, based on three main factors. So whenever an entrepreneur puts up a business proposal, either to a financial institution or to government, it checks on three prime areas as feasibility or workability. Number one, technical expertise and competency. Two, finances. Three, marketing. They are prime drivers. So feasibility study is a process that every person or company should do before starting any project. A successful feasibility study may be accepted or rejected based on the competency of the mentioned. So feasibility study gives an overview. It helps avoid risk and answers questions. So good question to ask to check on feasibility study are, will it work? How will it work? What is needed? When is the best time to do it? How much investment is needed? What will the return be? What kind of resources I need? What kind of networks I should have as people, as systems? Any challenges that I can forecast already? Do I have a plan to combat those challenges? What if it doesn't work? What if it grows more than is expected? So these are all questions to be addressed as well. And that's the reason sometimes people also go for executive coaching also, or entrepreneurial coaching as well. So when we speak of definition of feasibility studies, feasibility study is a study. It looks at the viability of an idea. Viability is functionality, practical application. Can it be done? With an emphasis on identifying potential problems and attempts to answer one main question. Will the idea work, and should you proceed with it? So whatever idea is put across, would it work, or and should we go ahead with it? So when we speak of market feasibility, it includes a description of the industry, current market, anticipated future market potential, competition, selling price, sales potential, potential buyers, demand, market share, etc. is very much important. Financial feasibility. So what are the financial feasibility required? Projects how much of startup capital is needed, source of capital, return on investment, break-even analysis, cost of manpower and technology, and proposed balance sheet is what in a financial analysis is done. Social feasibility. It stands for defining the study on social environment like location, social problems and pollution as well. Technical feasibility about details. How will you deliver the product or service? That is material, labor, transportation, staff requirement. Where your business will be located. Production processes includes input processing and output as well. So all technical know-how, domain specific knowledge, people personnel as well comes into technical feasibility. So in the part one, when you're speaking of project formulation, feasibility study, it's all about understanding the importance about designing a business proposal, looking into what factors need to be considered, be it the technical, socio-economical, financial, marketing, selling, socio-cultural, political aspects to be considered, and then we look into the feasibility study whether it will work. Should we go ahead with it? Is what the module has when it comes to the feasibility study and the project formulation. In second part of the module, we'll be looking into EDP. Now we know that the objective of government, we spoke about the role of SSI in our last module, about how much of small scale industries are important for the entire growth of the nation itself. We mentioned that the SSI or small scale industry or SMEs or MSME contributes to close to 37% to Indian GDP, which is substantially significant. So if from a socio-political background is concerned, if the country's GDP has to go up, one of the driving forces could be the small scale industries. And if small scale industries has to grow up, then entrepreneurship need to be developed, groomed, trained. So when it comes to training of an entrepreneurship, it's all about Entrepreneurship Development Program, or EDP as it is more colloquially called. So in this module and the next part of the module, the next two parts of the module, let me tell you there will be a lot of database things in terms of body organization. My request would be write those bodies' name, write where were they established, what's their role, whether it's a state body or a central body, because from a learning perspective, also from an exam perspective, they come as question and answer. That's one. Two, it's good to know which bodies do what. So importance of training and methods of training. So they say entrepreneurship primarily is a skill, and the skill could be learned. So when we are speaking of training through EDP, it's learning those skills. So there's an importance phase of EDP. We have seen to section of entrepreneurs where training programs, course content, the prerequisite for organizational forming an EDP becomes important. Importance of training. We know that any new skill, it is important that we know the domain well, we get trained well. So it ensures availability of skilled manpower at all management levels. We know that for a successful running of an organization, we need people of appropriate skills at appropriate levels. We know that at every level, right from a worker class, supervisor, junior management, middle management, senior management, strategic management team, at every level, we require a workforce with specific skill sets that are important to run the show. Enhancing abilities, potential among entrepreneurs, increased efficiency. So it's not only, when we say of training, it's also about upgrading people knowledge at every point of time or at timely intervals, maintain and enhance product quality, minimize wastage in production process. So that's what we spoke about, inventory management, in just-in-time approaches. Minimize accidents on the job, reduce fatigue and increase speed of work. So we are living in a world where speed is the name of the game. So can I give or provide a product or service with faster speed? Standardization of industry and internal process. So what organization look into and see into is, can I standardize my process? For an entrepreneur, we all know that results are important, but all entrepreneurs very well know that if an organization runs consistent processes, they are sure to get consistent results. So if we have process-driven tools, then the chances are that you get consistent results. So we don't want to have a phenomenal results one day and a nosedive the other day. We want consistent results, and for consistent results, We want consistent processes. And where do you get these processes? These processes are managed by doing benchmarking, by comparing with what the best do, best in the industry does, best in the sector does, best in the function does. So we benchmark it through industry standards. Methods of training. Now, methods of training could be individual instruction, group instruction, lecture method, which is happening now. It could be demonstration method, written instruction method. The manual is a written instruction method. The conferences and the meeting are the various methods through which training could be done and knowledge could be imparted. EDP, or entrepreneurial development, is designed with the aim of encouraging self-employment. One of the reasons that objectives of EDP is to ensure and enhance self-employment, because they say from a political angle also, if more people are self-employed, then underemployment comes down. So one way of putting up employment is to get a job, or the other is be self-employed and possibly give jobs to others as well. It imparts training and motivates potential and existing entrepreneurs to start new businesses. It helps employment and wealth creation among educated and unemployed youth. So when we speak of entrepreneurship at a very micro level, we are also looking at small nodal centers, points, individual group of people, artisans, skilled labor, where they can form, pack and start business of their own. They can form enterprise and entrepreneurs. Well equipped to face realities and challenges as an entrepreneur. So the objective of doing an EDP is not only to start an enterprise, but also to look into what possible risk could be there. So it's not just about giving the big picture, but also about showing what possible risk could be there in terms of money, in terms of time, resource, technological upgradation as well. It's well equipped, face risk and challenges, and also government needs considerable human and material resource importance to detailed planning and implementation. A lot of time when if an EDP is not conducted, if an entrepreneur who is running a show or who intends to start a own business in a very small micro rural level, a lot of time he's as equivalent to a frog in the well. He's just aware of his immediate surrounding, just like a frog is just aware of just the well. He doesn't know what exists outside the well. And in an environment where businesses are run, we spoke about post-liberalization era of GATT and WTO, where businesses has been very much miscible, where we are cross-dependent on each other internationally as well by world standards. So you can't have a very much frog in a well approach, because businesses are diffuse. They tend to influence each other. So it's important through EDP to show how our businesses run in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Showing them what technological things are happening as well becomes the objective of EDP, which is important. Phases. What phases does exist of EDP? It selects area from existing government policy, guidelines or socio-economic projects. Techno-economic surveys are done of the selected area and feasibility studies done. So when we speak of EDP, it's not just about training anywhere. It's about selecting pockets, identifying needs, because every sector, every socio-economic class, every demographic region has a different need. So based on the need analysis, EDP need to be prepared. Identifying potential and existing entrepreneurs interested in starting a new business, expansion or diversification. It's about training them, It's about follow-up and consultancy service. So it's not just about training at one point of time, but it's also about hand-holding as well. So training, they say, is not a one-time activity. It's about, so first training itself could be laid down in a laid out fashion. So they say schooling required 1 to 10 standard, isn't it, or 1 to 12 standard, where it could have been given in 1 to 3 years, but it's laid down. So training is also laid down in phases, and lot of hand holding is given as well as follow as consultancy. The EDP cycle starts from the stimulatory role, right from registration of the unit, the procedures involved, arranging finances, providing land, shed, power, water, guidance for selecting and obtaining machinery, and the guidance is important. Supply of scarce raw material, if some raw materials are scarce or limited, supplying them. Getting license or import licenses if required. Providing common facilities. Granting tax relief. Offering management consultancy and helping marketing product as well is part of the entire cycle of entrepreneurship development program. Support role in terms of entrepreneurial education, planned publicity or marketing, identifying of potential entrepreneurs through scientific methods, motivational training of new entrepreneurs, how they need to be brought into the mainstream of entrepreneurship, help and guide in selecting products and preparing project reports, making viable techno-economic information and product profits, evolving locally suitable new products and process. How locally, they say that one of the new management terms that has come up is being glocal. That means thinking globally, acting locally. So glocal. So in this competitive environment, you can't just be local or global. You have to be both. That's global. Thinking globally, but acting locally. Acting locally means using resources that are available in the periphery so that you can optimize cost and maximize results as well. Availability of local agencies with trained personnel, promotions, organizing entrepreneurial forums. So forming work groups or forming learning groups so that the entrepreneurs can meet once in a fortnight, once in a month, share the experiences, share the success story, identify common challenges that they could be addressed together. Sustaining role. The stimulatory role was that. Sustaining is what? Help modernization, how they could upgrade themselves, help diversification, expansion, additional financing that will be required if any, differing repayments. So if some person or an enterprise is not able to repay a loan for some time, so what are other alternatives? Diagnostic industrial extension, production units, product reservations, it could be quality testing improvements, or it could be need-based common facility centers needed. So one is a stimulations needed, that means at the starting point. The other is sustaining, how to maintain it. Selection of entrepreneurs for EDP. How the bodies select entrepreneurs for development programs. The program is well publicized and promoted to attract maximum application for screening. So first it advertised well. So entrepreneurs of the region are aware that so and so program is happening. Selection of top 20-30 applicants only. So when we are looking at grooming, training, learning, we know that it can't happen at a mass scale. So here focus is important. So screening becomes important. Identifying couple of them is important. Application is screened for what variables? Application is screened for demographics and social cultural cases, motivational factors. Psychological test results are also things that are mapped for screening of entrepreneurs. Then after this, the course content is designed. Now, it's not that a standard course content is there for a domain specific. It's always is tailor-made based on the need identified is important. So, introduction to entrepreneurship, motivational training, essentials of management are taught, fundamentals of project feasibility study is approached, organization of the business and plant visits are part of the modules where EDP touches upon. The prerequisites of EDP would be selection of entrepreneurs, inputs for EDP, support system and follow-up. Now, it's very important that whenever an EDP is designed and really laid across, one of the challenges and the needs for an EDP is an entrepreneur initially starts his business, but if he can't sustain long due to factors like he can't reach the threshold, a break-even point, business is running in losses for a consistent long period of time, he is not able to repay the loans at predefined time as was committed. Now all these reasons when compiled and pulled in for longer period of time, he can't last long and he might crack. Now, a lot of time, in spite of potential also, this might happen. And the purpose of EDP is to streamline, give them a process-based culture, motivate them, give them the power of networks in terms of connecting with people around becomes important. A lot of hand-holding happens in the entire cycle of EDP. What we are going to address now is also the organizations providing this EDP, which are the bodies, which are the government bodies who support, develop content and do a lot of handholding and consulting for these people, for these entrepreneurs. So one is the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, EDII. Now friends, at this point of time, this is the right time to take up page and pen if you have not taken. So write down these are important points to be noted down. So Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India develops programs for entrepreneurial training and development, develops innovative training techniques for trainers, focused attention on women entrepreneurs with first such EDP in 1988. So women entrepreneurs are also promoted to reach out. The purpose of the EDP is also to reach out to women entrepreneurs. EDP for rural entrepreneurship development, especially in UP and Odisha, was initiated initially, famous for organizing camps for entrepreneurship, and conducted EDP in Sri Lanka, also to other countries as well. Sri Lanka, Nepal, Ghana and Kenya were also EDII conducted on this program. So one of the bodies which conduct EDP is EDII. The second is National Institute for Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development. So it is established by Government of India in 1983. It is an apex body for coordination and supervision on activities of various institutes engaged in entrepreneurial development. It is a kind of apex body who modulates, who streamlines a lot of things. It helps evolution of EDP, model syllabi, effective training, strategies, methods, manuals and tools. Activities undertaken by NIESBUD are: it organizes and conducts training programs, it coordinates training activities for various agencies or institutes as well, it provides affiliation to such institutions, hold examination and confer certificates to trainers and trainees. So so when we speak of National Institute of Entrepreneurship and small business development, they are in touch up with agencies as well or institutes as well. They certify as well, and it helps So among an entrepreneurs, they say the best way to learn is to teach. So if you teach someone, if you want to teach someone, you need to learn well. So body when these bodies conduct the EDPs or entrepreneurial development program, among the entrepreneurs, trainers are selected to train it. So within them as well, it's a good motivational strategy as well to teach people as well. Small industry SI, it is a small industry service institutes, third body, which conducts EDP. It's a 3-month part-time evening course in management. Now, if you see various bodies who conduct EDP, their role are very different. Now, here they have come into evening classes. So, every body has their own role, and it's a 3-month course. 4 to 6 weeks part-time courses in intensive training in fundamental areas of marketing or finance. Special courses in quality control, HR, production planning and product development is taken place. Mobile workshops imparting training on correct usage of tools, helps with preparation of plant layouts, helps individual firms on specific problems faced. So this is more curriculum based, this is more, and also there are classes being oriented in the evenings. So an entrepreneur might come in the evening after he works on the floor. The micro, small, medium enterprise development commission, so MSMEDC, it runs EDP in collaboration with financial institute directorates of industry. Now this is a very important part when it comes to this body. It runs in collaboration with financial institutions. Very important for entrepreneurs, because if somebody is coming from a finance angle, it is important for every entrepreneur, because finance is something that they're always looking forward to. It gives the on-job training on the shop floor. See, now the role is defined. It gives training not in the classroom, on the shop floor itself. Carpentry, electrical devices. It sends official trainers to organization to update their knowledge. So it's more of on-the-job training, or OJT as it's called as. Very hands-on experience it gives in terms of the basic functional skills with carpentry, artisan, ITI kind of segments. The National Small Industries Corporation, or NSIC, it provides apprenticeship for 2 years. Now this is a long laid out program. The earlier bodies, some were 3 months, some were OJTs, but this is a laid out program, apprenticeship 2 years. Training supervisory staff of SSIs up to 2 years, eligibility. Training to engineers up to 2 years. Training workmen for 12 months. Training to set up own venture. Advise on machinery and components. Production of technological advanced machines. So it's a very defined kind of role. So based on the category class, if it's engineers, they're up to 2 years, workmen 2 years. So they're defined based on functional skills as well. The National Alliance of Young Entrepreneurs. Now, as the name itself signifies, now they have still redefined that class category as covering youth as an element. The NAYE. It contributes in encouraging women entrepreneurs. One of the bodies which also aggressively promotes women entrepreneurship. He set up Women Wing in as early as 1975. The wing assists women in getting better access to resource infrastructure market. One of the big challenges or hindrances or blockage for women entrepreneurs is the reach out, is the penetration to resources. So this body helps them to reach better, identify investment opportunities, attending to problems of individual industry, any specific challenges that the industry faces or domain specific challenges are being addressed. sponsors and participates in trade fairs, exhibitions, conferences. So since one of the objective of this body is to reach out when it comes to women entrepreneurs, so conferences are held, associations are being built up, so that it gives a platform so that they can mingle with similar-minded people or group associate companies as well. It organizes seminars, training programs, and workshops, primarily driven from a women entrepreneurship model. Now, these were the few bodies that supported EDP or Entrepreneurial Development Program. Now, in the third and the last module or last section of this module would be the institutional support. Now, we will look into an array. So, in the next 30 to 40 minutes or so, we will be looking into an array of the institutions or bodies that are there to support entrepreneurs. The earlier group that we mentioned, some will feature here as well. The earlier group were from a training, from a development perspective of entrepreneurs, right? This group could be for training, could be for financial, government initiative, or government body. So the domain it covers is immense. So again, the book and a pen. What are those institutes that are available, that are there to support entrepreneurs? And those groups are institutions to assist SSI are two types. So first, institutions that support broadly are categorized into two types, two major types. One, the state level institutions. So once we have a state level institutions, and the second is the central level institutes. Now, the reason why this is there is for the simple reason, since there are two bandwidth, state level bodies or institutes can have a better reach and penetration, can identify local challenges, can identify local resources well, can give local solutions also. So one, at a state level bodies that we have, at a higher level we also have a central level bodies as well, which provide institutional support. And central level bodies look into from a larger perspective and larger purview in terms of having the more diversified things, in terms of global scenario, in terms of the national philosophy as well. So state level institutes that are there are State Directorate of Industries, Small Scale Industry Development Corporation, SSIDC. We have District Industry Centers, State Finance Corporations, Technical Consultancy Organizations, TCOs, State Industrial Area Development Boards or SIADB. So these are the state level bodies or institutes. Central government institutes that exist are Department of Small Scale Industries, DSSI, Small Scale Industries Board, SSIB, SIDO, which is a Small Industries Development Organization, National Small Industries Corporation, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, ICICI as it's more commonly called, and Industrial Finance Corporation of India, ICFI. We will be looking into this 12 bodies one by one. Now this is more data-based, data-specific thing that we are going to address in the next 30-40 minutes or so. Please make a mention and note about each of these as we progress. So we'll start off with the state institutes. So when you speak of the state SSIs, under the Companies Act of SSIDC, it was started in 1956 and in all states it exists. These state bodies, these state government undertakings take care of growth and development needs of village industries, tiny industries, small industries. So industries which are very local. For example, it could be artisan, carpentry, it could be a household business like poultry, it could be for papad, achar, all those stuff are very local, are taken care by this body. The main function of SSIDC are procurement and distribution of scarce raw material. So any raw material that is available in scarce, that means that raw material is not freely available. So the purpose of the body is to provide raw materials, to make them available becomes important. Supply of machinery on hire, purchase basis. So at a rural level, let's take a simple example of agriculture, which some farmer or group of farmer might think of starting an enterprise about warehousing. Now we know that how much of the importance of warehousing in the entire supply chain of agricultural crop. Now if you farmers are thinking to start a warehouse locally, it is important there are certain machines that are required, because the farmers might just cut the crop and give it to these people. So they should require storage capacity barrels based on the product. They should have a cutting dispensing arm as well. So these kind of machinery are provided by these bodies, providing assistance for marketing of the products of small scale units. So for an industry which is very rural, one of the big challenge is reach out to the customer. So these bodies give access. For example, Lijjat Papad. Now papads, if you see, have traditionally been prepared by women for centuries in India. But challenge was, how do we mobilize them and make it as an enterprise? And that's what Lijjat Papad did through a lot of these bodies who took initiative in branding the product, making it public, reaching out to people around becomes important. Hence marketing becomes important. Because a lot of time at a rural level they might have skill sets to do a particular set of skill, but once they manufacture a product they don't know what to do, because it invariably happens they are frog in the well. They don't know what's happening around, how to reach out. And that's where the role of this small scale corporation comes into picture. Construction of industrial estates or sheds, providing allied infrastructure facilities and their maintenance, extending seed capital assistance on behalf of the state government, providing management assistance to production units. So any kind of management assistance is required in terms of consultancy, in terms of providing expert knowledge could be given here as well. Let's take the other body, the second body of a state institution, the Small Scale Industries Board, SSIB as it is more commonly called. Now SSIB was established in the year 1954 by the central government with the objective of developing small scale industries throughout the country, which this runs in alignment with the central body. The development work of small scale industries involve various ministries and departments and other factors like hand owners, financial institutions were part of it. The Directorate of SSIB advises the government of various development activities of small scale and industry related matters. And also the committee governing SSIB consists of industry ministries, various secretaries, members of parliament, state industry ministers and committee. So a lot of socio-political climate is built into the board for simple reason that if a political organization claims for good votes in that rural area, this gives an opportunity for showcasing it, giving some good work back to the rural population becomes important. That's where the role of SI becomes in the picture. Still at a very local level, we also have the DICs or district industry centers, and DICs were the platform through which the single window concept came in. Now, what is the single window concept? Now, the district industry centers program was started in 1978 for promotion of small scale industries. Now, services and support to small entrepreneurs are provided under a single roof through DICs. Now, a lot of time for a very small entrepreneur, he would require, we learned in the last module regarding the compliance in terms of authentication required for land, shed, power, electricity, water. Now, all these clearances an entrepreneur needs to take time and again. What DICs give, it gives a single window so that the entrepreneur need not waste his time to get clearance and approval from each of these bodies. He need not go to an electrical board, a water board, a pollution board. So all this could be addressed through a single window. So DICs came forward as a convenience tool, as a convenience window for an entrepreneur. So services and support was given to entrepreneurs. Registration of small industries is done at a district industry center. The organization structure of DICs consists of 1 general manager, 4 functional managers and 3 project managers providing technical services. And management of DICs is done by state government. So state government DICs came in as very handy when it came to providing registration, compliance certificate, no objection certificate as well for these entrepreneurs. Now, functions, if you see, of DICs were to conduct industry potential surveys, keeping in view of the availability of resources in terms of material and human skill, infrastructure, demand of the product, etc., to prepare techno-economic surveys and identify product lines and then provide investment advices to entrepreneurs. Now, friends, it's very important to understand at a very rural, for an unskilled or semi-skilled class of worker, for him to do a business forecast would be asking for too much, isn't it? Because of lack of education, because of lack of awareness of what's happening around. So DICs take this measure of doing their work in terms of understanding the technical needs, competencies, doing business forecasting for them. To prepare action plan, to effectively implement the schemes identified. So a lot of time it's not only about knowing it, but it's also about how aggressively you are going to implement the plan as well. To guide entrepreneurs in matters relating to selecting the most appropriate machinery and equipment. A lot of time, let me tell you, one of the biggest cost for an entrepreneur, if he is into manufacturing, is machinery and tools. And if he is not really aware which machinery he needs to purchase, because every now and then technology is upgrading, so he needs to look into the cost benefit ratio analysis as well, which the DICs do it. It is a source of supply and procedures for procuring imported machinery if required, if needed, assessing requirement of raw materials, etc. So these part functions are taken care by DICs for an entrepreneur. It is also to appraise the worthiness of various proposals received from entrepreneurs, assist the entrepreneurs in marketing, understanding product development work appropriate to small industries. It's also about to conduct artisan training programs. Now, Now, for a DIC, it becomes very much important so that when we spoke about EDC, the EDPs, the entrepreneurial development programs, DICs also conducted at a district level, at a rural level, so that small artisans, small artifact manufacturers could be trained as well. They have been set up to covering major districts of the country, leaving out metro populations. So DICs do not operate in metro towns. They operate in absolute rural areas. So that very small entrepreneurs could be groomed, trained, show the vision, give the prepared plan, assist them in machinery selection, and assist them in marketing as well. The other thing that we need to look into is are the technical consultancy organization. Now, there are certain TCOs. TCOs have their specific defined role. As the name itself signifies, they are given a cross-section of a segment where they specialize in. That's the technical competency. In various states, TCOs or technical consultancy organizations were established to provide total consultancy services as a package under single roof. So it's not about a single technical thing, but the entire package. So whatever technical things are involved for the project, for the business, for the enterprise, it can be consulted through TCO. Overall, 17 organizations were started by the group of financial organizations like IDBI, IFCI, and ICICI. So various bodies based on the technical. So if it's finance, and from a financial perspective, a lot of financial, because a lot of time in our educational curriculum, financial knowledge is not imparted generally. So financial institutions come into the picture, right, from ICICI, IFCI, or IDBI. The activities of TCOs are identify potential industrial projects and prepare feasibility survey reports, evaluation of various project proposals put up by the entrepreneurs, provide turnkey services in project report preparation and project implementation. So from a perspective, they give a detailed outlay in terms of financial planning, implementation, execution, measuring tools as well for the budding entrepreneurs as well. It undertakes market surveys for various existing and new products. So in terms of market analysis and understanding, these TCOs give ready-made information to entrepreneurs. It carry out study on sick industries and advice for rehabilitation schemes. So we know that not all enterprise does well. So after 3 years, 4 years, some enterprises don't seem to function at all. So they stop doing the business. So if it is a sick enterprise, the TCOs might take up and work an action plan towards it. Now, let me tell you, if you go to any of the IDCs, MIDC, KIDC, HIDC, based on the state industrial development corporation, there are a lot of units which are classically called as sick units. What are sick units? Sick units are units that doesn't make profit. For an entrepreneur, if a unit is sick for some portion of time, 6 months, 8 months, based on its financial cushion, there are chances that it might be the enterprise needs to be aborted. So it also undertakes the entrepreneurial development program, TCOs. It undertakes consultancy for export-oriented projects as well. So it also gives the leverage to reach out to other countries as well. Let's look into the other body, the Small Industrial Service Institutes, SISIs. So The SISIs are set up to provide consultancy and training to small entrepreneurs, both existing and prospective. Important. Now, everybody has a niche role to play when it comes to support for entrepreneurs. There are some areas that the functions are overlapped. For sure, it will exist, but also it has a key role. For example, here it is to train for SISI. The key role is to train not only to existing but also to prospective. Means the entrepreneurs are planning to become entrepreneurs. There are 28 SISIs and 30 branch SISIs set up in the state capital and other places all over the country as well. The main functions of SISIs include, the functions are to serve as transmitters between the state and the central. So they are the nodal points between the state and the center. To render technical support and services, to conduct entrepreneurship development programs, to initiate promotional programs as well. Economic consultancy, information, EDP consultancy is also part of SISIs as well. Trade and market information to be given, project profiles, set industrial potential surveys as well. So for prospective entrepreneurs, it is also important that they get to see the bigger picture. What is it that the SISIs are evaluated as business analysis? District industrial potential surveys locally as well. Workshop facilities, training in various trade activities. So what are things that are available as trade activities becomes important. Coming to institutes, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, the ICICI, as more commonly called now into banking as well. So ICICI was set up in January 1955 under the Indian Companies Act, and the primary objective of developing small and medium industries in the private sector. So the objective was to develop entrepreneurship at a private level as well, so that economy could be boosted as well. So there was stimulation done as well. Its issue of capital has been subscribed by the Indian insurance companies, British Eastern Exchange Bank, and the companies in general public in India. So you know that for any financial institutions, it's about how do you mitigate the risk. So insurance is taken not as a single entity, but they are transferred to multiple companies as well. So the ICICI performs functions. The functions are, it provides assistance by way of rupee and foreign currency, loans, underwriting, and direct subscription to shares, debentures, and guarantees. All financial products, right, in terms of loans, debentures, are being taken care of. It offers variety of financial services as deferred credit, leasing credit, installment sale, asset credit, and venture capital. Now understand, let me take a situation. Let me tell you that, friends, that entrepreneurs generally are good in their skills, a skill of producing, giving service, whatever the case might be. But a majority of entrepreneurs don't have a good financial understanding of the market, of turnaround time, of loan appreciation. There's so many things involved. Now, bodies like ICICI gives a detailed inputs in terms of financial know-how. Now, they say it is dead important for an entrepreneur to know the role of finance as well, how small factors really help well as well. It guarantees loans from private investment sources as well. So it's also a pull-in window where loans could be secured as well. So ICICI was set up as a merchant banking division, asset management company in 1993 to operate the schemes of the ICICI Mutual Fund. Yet another subsidiary called as ICICI Investor Service and ICICI Banking as well was launched in 1994. Assistance is sanctioned by ICICI during 94-95 increased by 77% and rupees 1,500,000 crores, while disbursements were made to rupees 6,008 crores. So amount of investment that ICICI was making at the marketplace for stimulation of entrepreneurship in private market was immense. The ICICI assists all sectors, that is private sectors, joint sectors, and the public sectors and the cooperative sectors as well. The private sectors continue to claim the largest share, 90% of ICICI, and sanctions in 94-95, followed by public sectors and followed by joint. So a major chunk of ICICI doing business was the private portfolio, followed by public or the joint ventures. We look into the other unit, the National Small Industries Corporation. If you see the National Small Industries Corporation, NSIC was started by central government in the year 1955 with objective of promoting and developing SSI units throughout the country. And it started the multiple objective of helping SSI units for providing machinery on hire products. Now this is important part. So among the national scheme, this is important, machinery on hire. Now for new entrepreneur, it is very, very important because a new machinery would cost a bomb. At this point of time, he might not be able to afford it. So can a machinery be hired? So these kind of bodies help things to get hired. Assisting marketing and exports, enlisting SSI units for tender participation in government purchases. So this is one of the very important tools. So whenever government orders are floated as tenders, these bodies, the National Small Industries Corporation, help even small entrepreneurs who can put up that tender or quotations for government projects. What happens, they get bulk orders at a premium rates, and there's an opportunity to grow and flourish. Organized supply of raw materials, training of personnel, assistance in modernization of the units as well is objectives of National Small Industries Corporation. The functions include financial assistance by way of hire purchase schemes for purchase of local and imported machinery, provision for various equipment on lease basis. So anything that could be leased out, it could be land, shed, the infrastructure, machinery, assistance for marketing the products in the country, and also to explain the exporting of the products of SSI units. Enlisting quality conscious goods SSI units. So it's also about how the benchmark in terms of quality of a product could be raised and even match international standards as well. Training of workers in various traders required for SSI units. Assistance for upgradation of technology process and modernization of plant and machinery are the objective when it comes to NSIC or National Small Scale Industrial Development Corporation. To make bulk purchase of important raw materials and distribute to SSI units at reasonable rates. So if any raw material needs to be imported, and at an individual level, if somebody is going to import, the prices might be high. So what these bodies do is they buy in bulk. Since it's the government body, they can do it. They buy in bulk, and because of volumes of scale, the price get lowered, and every small entrepreneurs can benefit out of it. To develop industrial estates and testing facilities in the industrial area, NSIC has government offices in various industrial cities and towns and is having socio-economic approach in industrialization and non-industrialized areas as well. So these are, they penetrate deep down as where industries are there, and they can be more accessible by an entrepreneur. The Small Industries Development Organization, the SIDO. Now, this organization mainly created for the development of various small-scale units in different areas. SIDOs identified the need of SI units, coordinating, monitoring the policies and programs of promotion of small industries. So, the objectives of SIDOs are the policies and the measures that the government has taken in terms of initiativeness. Are these being implemented? Are the end entrepreneurs getting benefited out of it is important. It will take various programs of training, consulting, evaluation of needs of SSI, and development of industrial estate. All these functions are taken care by the organization structure with 27 offices, 31 SISIs, 31 extension centers are there so that the process of development could be initiated. The coordination activities of SIDOs are to coordinate various programs and policies of various states, government pertaining to small industries, to maintain relationship with central industries as well, ministry, planning, commission, state level ministry and financial. So it's a kind of body that kind of manages central, state, district financial institutions. They connect with all as well. So good facilitating role. Implement and coordinate the development of industrial estates as well. The industrial development activities of SIDOs are, it develop import substitutions for components and products based on data available for various volume wise or value wise. It gives essential support and guidance for development of ancillary units, to provide guidance of the SI units in terms of costing, market compensation, and encouraging the participant in government stores and purchase tenders. So in terms of approaching how to fill a tenders, any ancillary unit is there, how to get into that, to recommend the central government for reserving certain terms of production of SSIs only. So a small chunk of the government orders are only reserved that has to come from an SSI. That is also SIDO's role to ensure that it happens. The management activities of SIDOs are to provide training and developing and consulting services to SSI to develop their competitive strength, provide marketing assistance to SSIs, to assist SSI units in selection and machinery, location, layout design and appropriate processes, to help them get updated with various information related to small scale industries activities. So all micro elements in terms of training, grooming, knowing how the process run becomes important. IDBI. Now IDBI is one of the premier institutions when it comes to financial sectors. The IDBI was established in 1964 as per the Parliamentary Act and a financial institution of the country. And in February 1976, IDBI was made an autonomous institution. They had their own thinking body and committee as well, where ownership was passed from the Reserve Bank of India to Government of India. So it became a non-financial institution coming from a decentralized power. The IDBI provides assistance to small-scale industries through its schemes of refinances and through its bill rediscounting scheme. So all schemes in terms of how money could be rotated, how turnaround cycles of sales could be managed well, how credit ratios could be managed well. It assists to a large number of small scale industries reachable indirect in the form of refining of loan guaranteed by banks and state financial corporations. So a lot of time when entrepreneurs are really not much aware of financial knowledge, institutes and bodies like IDBI helps gain them good financial knowledge, knows, getting to know them what's a good financial health for an entrepreneur, what should be the credit ratio as well before going for a loan becomes important. In 1988, IDBI also launched a National Equity Fund or NEF, which support the nature of equity to tiny and small. So equities was provided for a small scale industry. The IDBI also introduced a single window assistance scheme again for SSIs. The IDBI also set up a voluntary executive corporation to utilize service of experienced professionals. So how experience and expertise people who have already run the show, to bring them on panel on board and help them for consulting, hand holding as well. And during 1987-88, IDBI sanctioned assistance worth 1500 crores to small scale industries and to a total sanction of 4500 crores, which was immense considering the size of SSIs. The Small Industrial Development Bank of India, the SIDB, was set up in 1989 as a whole subsidiary of IDBI. So SIDB became a subsidiary and sub-associate which came up from IDB. So SIDB does collaborative efforts to timely flow of credit. Both term loans and working capital loans were mobilized to SIDB locally. Earlier, SIDB was doing refinancing and discounting of bills. Now, in addition to this, direct participation of equity is taken care by SIDB locally for SSIs. Among the support functions of SIDB, finances for technology, transfer, upgradation, quality improvement, exports, centralization and industrialization are also taken by SIDB. Now, when we speak of knowledge transfer, it is very important, especially when we are living in a technical era, where any kind of technological transfer requires a lot of money, where it's facilitated, navigated by SIDB. For these activities, SIDB involves consultants and a national and international level of improvement. So they have expertise people who run this consultancy services for SIDB. The state financial SFCs, the state financial corporations. Now SFCs are set up in 1948 to provide financial assistance to medium and large scale industries. 1951, the role was extended for assistance to SSIs. There are 18 SFCs in different states, with each having a prefix to the state names. It could be Maharashtra State Finance Corporation, it could be Karnataka State Finance Corporation, like that. Each SFC has own managing director, executive director, board, so it has a separate body for themselves to operate and run the show. Role of SFCs: term loans to be provided to various small, medium and long range industries, loans based on securities to be given. SFCs are different schemes for women, ex-servicemen, physically challenged, could be reserved class. Apart from industries, loan is given for transport, operators, hotels, hospitals, nursing homes, tourism, lodges, guest houses. So it covers a huge array of things. Now let me tell you friends, SFCs or state financial corporations have a huge role to play when it comes to state entrepreneurship as well. And the onus lies at the state government. Objectives, if you see, of SFCs were to provide term loan for purchase of land, buildings, machinery and other facilities, to promote self-employment of professionally qualified men and women entrepreneurs interested in starting their own project. Even financials, assistance of expansion, modernization and mechanization of existing setup, wherever needed, financial assistance or rehabilitation as per case demands, to give financial assistance for transport vehicle and tourism related activities are also supported by SFCs. To entrepreneurial development, EDP also was taken care of to provide financial assistance for quality improvement. So anything that they need to raise the bar in terms of quality support was also given. SFCs caters to all categories of small and big industries. Tourism operators, service centers like hospitals, boards, attended from various socio-economic types were called in for reach out for SFCs. Yet they came with problems, and the challenges of SFCs were, since SFCs were started by respective state government, the usual problems of state bureaucracy also crept in. Delays, criticism, favorism crept in. In the state offices, problems of corruption and the other malpractices continue to bother the applicants. And in case of repayment, very strict procedures were followed, and units has to be sealed on as the case demands. So what has happened was, since SFCs was primarily based and came from state units, so all challenges that associate with state functionaries, right from bureaucracy, corruption, favorism, biasness crept in, delays, lack of decision making really didn't help much when it came to SFCs. IFCI. Now, the last of the boards that we will be discussing, the IFCI. It is a Government of India set up by the Industrial Finance Corporation of India. Under IFCI, in 1993, it is brought in the Companies Act of 1956. Now, understand friends, IFCI has a great role when it comes to financial restructuring of small scale industries. The IFCI extends financial assistance to industrial sector through rupee and foreign currency loans, underwriting, direct subscription of shares, debentures and guarantees. Also offers financial services through its facilities of equipment procurement, equipment finances, buyers and suppliers, credit, equipment leasing, finance to lease and purchase companies. So if you see, there is a whole gamut of activities that are there when it came to IFCI. So all financial restructuring in terms of the entire business flow, if at all required, could be done for a small enterprise or even to a mid enterprise as well. Now these things are dead important, because they say if your financial scorecard is good, then the future looks good. And we mention time and again, we have always been mentioning that one of the reasons where a lot of companies face a lockout is because they don't have a good financial backdrop layout as well. The financial planning is not executed. There is no vision as far as financial planning is concerned. And IFCI has a major role when it comes to restructuring of finances as well. The financial resources of IFCI are constituted for three components: the share capital, bonds and debentures. The Industrial Development Bank, scheduled banks, insurance companies, trust were shareholders of IFCI. And IFCI started new promotion schemes such as interest subsidy, for women entrepreneurs, consultancy services, providing market assistance to SSIs as well. So these were some of the measures that IFCI came across and gave to the entrepreneurs, be it small entrepreneurs or big entrepreneurs. Great then. So these are the 12 bodies that supported entrepreneurs big time. So let's recap what we've done so far. We have looked into three aspects today. We have looked into one, the project formulation. We have also looked into the feasibility study, involved various things. We also looked into the EDP or Entrepreneurship Development Program. And we have also looked at the third aspect, the institutions that support entrepreneurs financially or otherwise as well. If you have any doubt on this, Anything you want to share, please drop a mail at ISBM. We will be more than glad and happy to receive and respond to your mail. It has been a lovely time facilitating entrepreneurship management throughout these 8 sessions. We had an entrepreneurship management covering various areas. So thank you so much for a patient listening. This is Professor Dinesh Gosai signing off from this side.